I had a conversation with someone a few years ago and they said, well, my life is nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And I said, well, whose is? Right?
Welcome to Soul Glow, somewhere between free therapy and yapping with our friends. Stacey Ray is the founder of Sisterhood Travels-a, a thriving community offering women 45 and older transformative group travel experiences around the world. After losing her husband in 2017, Stacey turned grief into purpose, building a movement that helps women feel invincible, not invisible. With nearly 90 countries under her belt and a community of over 45,000 women, she's on a mission to create space for healing, joy, and bold reinvention through travel. She also hosts the podcast Life Reimagined with Stacey Ray, where she shares stories and insights on navigating life's big transitions with courage and curiosity. Welcome to Soul Glow with Zoe, Stacey.
Thank you, Zoe. I'm so honored to be here. It's a pleasure. Congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm a big traveler and just love visiting countries. I've traveled all the way from Australia to the US, moved here. Can you give our listeners just a little bit of insight about your journey and why you created Sisterhood Travels?
Well, when my husband died at the end of 2017, I stayed kind of in I call it a paralysis of not really being able to function. I could not get past my loss. But travel had always been our jam. Mike and I traveled the world. We loved it. We were great travel partners. We laughed ourselves silly all the time. And as time went on, and I started to get a little sick and tired of being sick and tired of feeling sorry for myself, I started to question, what do other women do, especially at my age? At the time, I was like, I lost my husband when I was 58, so I was 60. And I was like, what do other women do when they want to travel and don't necessarily want to go by themselves? And I had this epiphany one day. There's got to be other women out there just like me for whatever reason. And so without a whole lot of thought and without a whole lot of planning, and I don't recommend this to people when you're trying to start a business, but I thought I'm going to start a company that is just for women because there really wasn't a whole lot out there. And especially for women over 45 and 50. So I decided, you know what? I wanted to certainly be about travel so that we can travel together, but I wanted to be about friendship and connection. And so I decided to call it Sisterhood Travels. And that's how I got started. A couple of blips with the pandemic, but um, we survived that, and now we're really thriving.
To have visited nearly 90 countries like that, it's just, even to say it is so vast. I'm really curious, what is your favorite place you've ever traveled that has impacted you the most spiritually?
It is Tanzania. When I went almost a year ago in September for the Great Migration. And so everyone who knows me will tell you that I'm a bit of a princess. I love my luxury. You know, the more the better. Although with that said, I mean, I want to make it clear I'm very down to earth. I'm not a, a nasty princess. But so I had dreamed since I was a child of seeing those wildebeest cross that river for the Great Migration. All my life, I've been watching documentaries and what have you. So I actually created the itinerary with our person over in Africa, really for me, hoping that other women would want to come. And of course they did. They were chomping at the bit. And it was the most transformational journey I've ever taken because I found we are the tiniest little blips on this planet. We are so meaningless in the general scope of things. We are interlopers in that land. We're the visitors. That's not ours. It belongs to the wildlife and the people who live there and take such loving care of every inch of it. And so I'll make you laugh. So I was trying to tell you about, me being such a luxury queen. Well, we stayed in quote unquote luxury wilderness camps. Now, that term is very relative, right? So in the one camp that we stayed at, and all the tents are very durable, and you have like some kind of flooring on there, and you have actual beds in there, but beyond that, it's not like the Ritz. So the one camp that we stayed at in the Serengeti, and it really was my favorite thing. If you wanted to take a shower, you had to tell them, and then they come outside your tent and they fill this bucket, literally, like, fill this bucket, raise it up. You get 25 liters per day per person. Not a drop more, period. When it's done, it's done. And I loved that because I am so passionate about water not being a renewable resource. And how many people around the world do not have clean water? And that is the leading cause of disease in the world. Sorry, I don't mean to get on the platform on that, but I'm so passionate about that. And so I was perfectly fine with that. I don't, it's funny because my husband was a retired Marine, and he used to tell me that it took him years and years to stop doing it. But in the Marines, you learn, especially when you're deployed, you turn the shower on, you get wet, you turn it off. You soap up, shampoo, whatever it is you're going to do, turn the water on again, get yourself all clean because you only have a limited amount of water. So even when we, later on in our marriage, he still would oftentimes do that because it was just second nature. But anyway, so that is always my reminder, my grounding moment that people live like this every single day of their life, and they are perfectly fine. They don't need all the fanciness of what we think we need. But what was truly transformational for me was the quiet, the silence of nothing but real life. No hustle bustle, no museums and churches and cathedrals and shopping. It was nothing like that. It was just, I truly understood for the first time in my life what people mean when they say being with nature, being at one with the earth. And I would go back there and stay forever if I could. I truly would. I loved it that much. I found a piece of myself that I didn't know I had, but I also left my heart there for sure.
When you said that you left your heart there, it really resonated with me because I'm actually South African. And I grew up in Australia, but my mother was born in South Africa and her whole family. We had our wedding in Cape Town, and I actually had like a sign that said I left my heart in Africa because I had a spiritual experience when I was 16 when I went there for the first time. I always say to everyone, there's so many similar countries in the world, but there's nothing like Africa.
I agree with you. And I just came back in May from South Africa and Mozambique. Now, my goal now is to travel to every single country that I can in Africa. It is definitely my new passion for sure.
I just want to touch on, what you talked about, like feeling like we really are, as humans, like a blip on the radar in the universe. And also, I want to touch on the water crisis in Africa. Not a lot of people know about it, but actually, when I had my wedding in South Africa, they were going through one of the worst water crises that they've ever had. And I almost canceled my wedding, but my guests were so respectful. And we actually had rules like we couldn't, and this is in South Africa, like not greater Africa. And it taught me a lot about how to just be, thoughtful of others and to only take what you need, like from the earth.
Absolutely. And guess what? My other thing is leave more than you take, right? And it doesn't mean necessarily always money. People always think when I say that you're talking about money, and I'm not. I'm talking about respect and understanding and compassion and, you know, connection and, all those things. Maya Angelou said something I love, people won't always remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
I just love the like gift of travel as well, right? Like it's truly not just to do touristic things, it's to connect with culture and the people and the history. I always explain to anyone visiting Africa, especially South Africa with the apartheid, I'm like, you have to learn your history before going there because there's still a lot going on that like you might not understand. So
I was just talking to someone on my podcast a couple weeks ago that we did a recording, and she grew up in apartheid in South Africa, and her family was able to emigrate to Australia. Um, it took her father like 15 or 20 tries to something like that to be able to get it, and she got in just in the nick of time because I think she was like 20, and at 21 she would have had to apply herself. But we were talking, and I was telling her that it's like civil rights in the US. We love to say, "Oh, we're just such a free society. We don't have any civil rights issue." Oh my God, I just want to scream when I hear that. But it's the same thing that on paper, yeah, you might have passed this legislation. It doesn't mean it's over with.
wow, that's so similar to my mom's story. She grew up in the apartheid and moved to Australia. And for those listening, a lot of South Africans immigrate to Australia because we're part of the Commonwealth together. And for those who don't know anything about the apartheid, it's a very, sad part of history. And Nelson Mandela really changed a lot for South Africa's independence, specifically with Black people. But there's a lot of cultural division in South Africa still to this day. Crime, poverty. So that's what we're talking about, that it's still going on. And it's important to always, if you're going to travel, know the history and also be safe as well. But yeah, it's such a small world. And I love what you said about like grounding as well. And also like understanding what it's like to truly be like quiet with nature. Because I know like a lot of people who have like spiritual breakthroughs, that's like the main thing that I pick up that they say is that they numb themselves with like the noise of society and like the busyness of life. And, it doesn't have to be like Africa that you need to go and touch the grass and like ground yourself.
Right, exactly. It can
But
just,
I'm curious, like, with your company and all the women that are coming, and I'm sure that they have such like um courageous and unique stories, like maybe they are also going through grief on some level or separation or a hard time in their life. Has a particular guest experience while traveling stood out to you in terms of, you know, finding peace, like while traveling, like with your company, um, with a hardship that they were facing at the time, similar to what you said, like did traveling help them find some peace outside of the stressful world and hard times that they were experiencing?
Most of the women who travel with us, while they may or may not share their personal stories, most have suffered um, major challenges, unimaginable losses, um, unexpected tragedies, all kinds of things. And they're so diverse and their stories are so rich. And so we hear a lot of feedback from our women, and we call them sisters. So if you hear me keep referring to them as our sisters, that's why. Our sisters have such resilience and they're brave and they do all these things. But the one story that always sticks out to me because it was toward the beginning of this journey with Sisterhood Travels, we had gone to Punta Cana for like a girlfriend's getaway, and it was not like a culturally immersive trip. It was just like really truly a beach getaway. But one thing I did do, it's kind of like my little signature, is I chartered a boat for our group for the day for us to go out. You could snorkel, swim, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they played a lot of music and the St. Lucia Tourism Board, I knew the guy that worked there. He came on and he started to have like dance contests and things like that. Anyway, we were all having a great time, and I look over at this one woman who's just so lovely. And here's a woman who, by necessity, she had lost her husband, and she was now the primary custodian of her two teenage grandson. And all of a sudden, I look over, and she's sobbing. And I said, "Oh my God." I said, "Are you okay?" Because I was like, "What did we do?" She says, "I'm wonderful." She says, "I just realized this is the first time since my husband died that I've laughed." And that to me was the most powerful moment because A, I knew exactly what she was talking about. I could so relate. But it is also the reason why we do what we do. Because that laughter started her on a journey of I'm allowed to live again. It's okay. I'm gonna be okay. And I think it was so transformational for her. So you asked about peace, but I think there was peace in that for her.
Honestly, I just got shivers while you were talking because that's the power of travel, and also leaving your hometown at some point in your life. Like, I haven't been through the type of grief that you've been through and some of these women, but I moved overseas at a very young age to be with my husband. And, you know, it was the best decision I ever made. Like, obviously, it's the US, it's not like, like as culturally amazing of a country as Tanzania, but um, it challenged my beliefs. The person I was growing up, and made me into the person I am today. And I love that guest gave herself permission to laugh, and like you said, like you're allowed to continue living. Like it sounds like she was experiencing grief with the loss and feeling like almost like guilty.
Guilt. And I will tell you, as a widow, and I talk to so many, and that is a commonality that we all suffer from and I don't care how good or bad your marriage was, the guilt is still going to be there because our whole lives as women, we are in a box, right? The society tells us how to talk, how to walk, how to dress, how to communicate, all these things. And so it is very difficult to step out of that, right? And so um one of the things that goes along with is your husband dies and you have to be a certain way in order to be respectful. Like, if I hear one more person criticize a widow or even a widower, a man, for having a new relationship too soon, or, why are they dressing like that? Why are they moving? Why are they doing this? A, why is it any of your business? But B, why can't we be who we want to be? At what point in our lives do we get to give ourselves permission, unapologetically, without guilt, the ability to be our authentic selves? And that is a huge thing for me, and something that I try to lead by example and, through our company, is that you are okay exactly like you are. You don't have to do anything anybody else's way. And this thing about, I mean, it's becoming big now, and I'm so happy that it is. I didn't create it or invent it, but it's always been in my head. Why, as a woman, am I supposed to be invisible, especially as I get older? Why are you telling me to tone it down and, be more demure and, speak like this and speak like that? If a man says what's on his mind, we say, oh, look at him. But if a woman does it, we have all kinds of names for her, and women are meaner to women about these things than men are.
Absolutely. And it's so sad. I was talking to my friend about the corporate industry and even how women um, are less likely to help each other in the workplace.
Because there's so much competition, and they have been trained to be competitive with each other. Because as long as we're divided, we don't stick together.
And it's almost like internal, right? Like it's like they're projecting their own insecurities onto the other woman. Like it has nothing to do with the woman receiving that criticism. And oh my gosh, I could talk about this topic all day. Like, I love this topic about women having to do it all. Like, because, you know, women sacrifice so much. They sacrifice their bodies, becoming mothers. They sacrifice, a lot of women of your generation sacrificed a lot for your husbands as well. Um, and you also, your generation did get married a little bit younger than my generation. So, like you said, whether or not the marriage was, good, bad, in the middle, like if it was a healthy marriage, it's a little bit of everything. Um, you know, that's still almost your whole life. And I really understand that grief because my mom divorced from my father after about 25 years. And that was a lot of grief. And then she was in a successful marriage for about 10 years and she just separated. And I'm so excited to talk to her about your company and to travel. And she's been wanting to travel. And I've been talking to her about really figuring out how to lead her own life moving forward. And, sometimes I'm like very protective over her. So I want to um do everything for her, and she's such an independent and resilient woman, and she's like, I want to go do my own thing, and I'm like, okay, like
Yeah, you remind me of my daughter a lot because she's very protective of me as well. And, I have said to her many times, I said, Sammy, you're going to find this so hard to believe, but before you were ever even like a blip in the screen, I used to take care of myself. I knew how to do things. And so, yeah, while I may look a little helpless when it comes to technology or something like that, I am perfectly capable of making decisions. The hard part is believing that you can and giving yourself permission to do it. Women in my generation, we have been taking care of everybody our whole lives. Our husbands, our partners, our children, our jobs, our community, our grandchildren, our parents, even, we're that sandwich generation where so many of us have parents that we're responsible for. But when is it our turn? And the one thing I hope with your generation and younger is that you do recognize how much value you have and how important it is to be you. And if you are with partners that don't want you to be you, mm, might not be the right partner. Yeah.
What you said about your daughter, and my generation knowing our self-worth, it is really because of your generation. Like it's our mothers that, really like walked so we could run.
Thank you for saying that. That is so nice to hear that acknowledged because a lot of younger women want to mansplain to me what feminism is and all of that. And I'm like, well, okay, let's go back in time because I was marching before you were born, but okay.
That's the hope, right? Like every generation, when I don't have kids, but
Right.
if I have a daughter, why wouldn't I want her life to be better than mine?
Absolutely.
And learn from my struggles. And my mom always says that she's proud of me, and I get emotional saying it, but I'm like, well, like it's because of you. Like, like you've really taught me everything.
My daughter said that to me too.
It's like it takes mothers and daughters a while to get to a good place in life. Like you have your struggles, but I'm really glad we are in the similar place to you and your daughter, where I can really let her know while she's alive. Like I'm so thankful for everything that you've done, because it's, even if you haven't told me it, we watch as kids, and as daughters we watch like more than sons, and we learn through your actions. So if you're brave or you're resilient, that's exactly what we're going to model. And something that stood out, what you said about like living authenticity as women, after grief, as you get older, especially at that age, because like it's like life is short. Like, you don't have you don't know how many years you have left. And to play the role of like a caregiver in your generation, like daughter, mother, older sister, wife, grandmother as well, like it never ends. So I think your company is amazing for women to step into their authenticity, because it's never too late. Like you said, like you had a life before kids, and maybe it's like finding that person again, like at a younger age. Who was that person before all of these roles, and building upon that as well. So I love that.
I'll throw something else in here is, when I talk to widows, one of the things that you find, and I think this would apply to anyone who's, whether they're divorced or anyone who's been with someone for a long period in their life, when that relationship is gone, you start questioning very much, who am I? What do I like? Wait, do I like that food because Mike and I liked it, or do I actually really like it? Do I like that, carpet because Mike liked it or because we both liked it or what? It's a whole it's like almost like being a child and learning to live in the world because you're just not sure what actually belongs to you and what belongs to the relationship and what belongs to that person.
I just want to shift gears a little, because I'm excited to learn like about your trips. What are some of like the activities and like elements that help foster like not just fun, but like a soul level connection and healing for your guests?
All of our sisters meet in the destination. So first, so we start there because once they book a trip, we open up a private Facebook group just for that trip. I don't do the groups anymore, but I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks before the trip. So they preliminarily start to get to know each other. Hi, I'm so and so from wherever. But then these women, so many of whom have never flown by themselves, never um even dreamed of crossing the pond, whatever the case may be, they get on a plane and they fly to, I don't know, let's just say Italy. And they meet 24 women they've never met before. Now, we're not talking about, you know, extroverts and all that. We're talking about women who are wounded, some of them very strong, some of them, everything in between. And what we do is we arrange the transfers from the airport to the hotel. I cannot tell you how many brand new best friendships are being made in a car with three women from the airport to the hotel. They are the connection is amazing. Um, but then on the trip itself, we try to make a good combination of, like when it comes to culinary and things like that, we do a nice combination of group meals where we all sit together. We really encourage everyone to don't sit with the same people every meal because you want to meet everybody, even if they're not someone that you're, especially fond of. The other thing is that we also allow for a lot of independent dining and exploration on our trips so that women can find other women who maybe enjoy the same thing. So maybe these two women want to spend the afternoon at the spa in the hotel, but these two women, they're shopaholics and they want to go run a shop. So a lot of commonality despite all the differences. But then what's really important to me is and I hate to appropriate an overused word, but culturally immersive, authentic, exclusive type experiences where we're meeting other women in the destination that we are. So we may meet with a human rights advocate for women in Bali, or we're going to the Emirates in October. Yeah, we're going to be going to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Oman. Well, I wish you could come with us. We are we have so many moments that we've scheduled where we are going to meet with women and have it's an exchange of understanding, not judgment, right? So our women are not going to sit there and go, "Oh, how could you let the men do that to you?" That is not who we are. That's not what we allow. So by building those relationships and connecting with women who maybe live differently from us, our sisters find out a lot of things. Number one, that person that rode on the bus with you to this event, that you were thinking they're a weirdo because they believe such and such. I think I'm going to be a little more understanding and not so judgy on that. Um, the um the connection through laughter is huge. So we try to make sure that things are lighthearted and fun, and we find that very quickly the women will tease each other, like, lovingly. And one big thing that we do on our trips, we have a very strict code of conduct. We do not allow mean girl syndrome. We, our our group leaders that, we send, they're not your tour directors, but they're there for the women. They're there to help facilitate Um, any, I'll call them personality conflicts or anything like that. We don't have it a lot, but one of the things that I try to remind our sisters about is every single one of us is dealing with something. And every single one of us can wake up on the wrong side of the bed today. Don't assume that Miss Grumpy over there is grumpy because she's not a nice person. It might be the anniversary of a great loss in her life, or this morning she woke up and her stomach is real queasy. She's not sick, but she's not feeling it. Compassion, kindness, and acceptance are the biggest things. So, all those components combined with our trips are I think, all players in what makes the experience so magical and how these connections and friendships are built. And they're organic. I mean, and then we have all these women, they meet each other and they become such fast friends. And it's not a fly by night just because they're on the trip. Because while they're on the trip, they're already planning another trip.
And that's the beautiful thing about why you started it, I'm sure, like, is to create the community. Like, if we just like step a few steps backwards, that's probably what you were looking for, right? When you were going through your loss with your husband, Mike.
100%. And I'm learning to stop saying that at our age it's hard to make friendships, because I think in this virtual world it's hard for everyone to make meaningful friendships, and I do realize that now. But I will say, for um women in our age group, we're a little more gun shy about using technology to make friendships. And so if you don't create a safe space, it's not going to work. So we have a Facebook group for Sisterhood Travels that is almost 46,000 women at this point. And that code of conduct that I was talking about, we enforce that in the group. I don't know of a group except that one where there is not constant snide remarks and bickering and this. I don't care if it's a work group, if it's a whatever group. The women in this group are just, we occasionally have the mean person, and you know what? Guess what? Goodbye. No warnings. Because if this is what we are getting from you before we've ever even met you, what can we expect from you on our trip? And I feel that I have a moral and ethical obligation to protect everyone on the trip, not just one person who just has decided to be miserable. Toxic negativity? Mm-mm.
And toxic positivity as well.
Oh, yeah.
Someone's having a hard day and you gloss over it, and like you said, like, you just don't know what is going on in someone's life. And um also, like, a person on the trip could be reminded of something hard and be triggered. Like, there's so many explanations to why someone might be having a hard day, and I just want to touch on, I think it's a really beautiful thing that all of these women don't know each other, and that they're coming, I'm assuming, from different countries and cities, right?
For the most part, our women come from primarily the US and some Canada. We are starting to get more. We've had women from Australia and the UK, and a couple of other places. Initially, my thought was I really wanted to limit it to the US and Canada because I was comfortable in that zone, even so far as like currency exchange and, things like that. But now we are wide open. Women are welcome from all over the world, and we want that because it makes us better. And it's a global sisterhood. It's not just a US sisterhood, it's a global one.
I think it's really an important thing, if you're going through a hard time, to go on an experience like this with other people who are going through a hard time. Because people in your, like, support network, like family, friends, they can only be there for you so much. Like, they try.
Sometimes it's like women who go to therapy. You come on these trips and it's kind of like a therapy because we don't know the players in your story. We care about you.
Yeah, it's unbiased, non-judgmental, and especially with grief. I think a lot of people in society are uncomfortable with grieving, and they, once a loss happens, they do what they need to for you and to be there. But when the funeral is over, or the relationship has finished, or someone's moved out, the grief is still there. It's there every single day. And from what
Doesn't go away.
exactly, and from what I understand with grief, from what people have told me and what I've researched, is that it never goes away, but your capacity to handle it just gets bigger.
Your coping mechanisms change.
Stacey, loss and reinvention are obviously deeply personal to you. How did launching this business after losing your husband, Mike, help you process your own grief and reclaim your own purpose?
I love that question, and I will tell you, I actually have a video clip out about this that, you know, the women that travel with us tell me all the time, Stacey, you've changed my life and blah blah blah. And I always say the same thing. I was like, that is so kind of you, but I didn't change your life at all. We gave you a vehicle, which is travel, to do that. You're the one who had the bravery and the strength to hop in that vehicle and say, let's go for it. But what these women don't get is how much they healed me. I stopped feeling sorry for myself because A, I was making new friends. B, I was back to traveling, which is my passion, and I love it. And then there was the magic part. When you watch these women turn into a them that they are finally proud of because they just did something so wild and wacky, like go on a trip with 24 women they don't know or 15 women they don't know. The confidence they build and the new life skills they build and their stewardship toward other women, that is all healing for me and has helped me to feel joy again. I did not think I would ever feel joy again after my husband died. And now I can tell you that basically I'm a very joyful person. And joy is not the same as happiness, as you well know. Happiness is, yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, things are good. Things are good. But joy, it's visceral. You feel it. It's like this, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Or, oh, that song is making me feel emotions, or that person is making my heart sing. That's joy. Like you can feel it in your bones and your blood. So yeah, that's how.
When you're talking about joy, I think also joy comes from purpose. And it seems like
Absolutely.
you're living out your purpose. And when like that aligns with your, you know, grief and then giving back to others and then, just your mission, like in this lifetime, like I think that's where the joy has clearly come from.
I had a conversation with someone a few years ago and they said, well, my life is nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And I said, well, whose is? Right? I said, nobody's life is what they thought it would be. But I will tell you that since I started Sisterhood Travels, I am most definitely evolving into the person I kind of dreamed I was going to be someday when I was young. I was going to be this, like this woman that just traveled the world and had millions of friends. Like I had this like very,
Really? You had that when you were younger?
yeah. In fact, I had no
Wow.
intention of getting married, no intention of getting kids. I wanted to be Auntie Mame, and I wanted to be the rich aunt that just flew in with gifts for everybody from my latest trip and my stories and whatever. But I realized that I am now strong enough and confident enough to use my voice, as they say, even when it shakes. And I hope that a tiny piece of me is inspiring to other women to do the same.
just makes you reflect on life when you listen to someone truly living out their purpose and asking yourself, am I doing that too? And uh, I just want to ask one more question about your husband, Mike, who you lost in 2017. Um, I know you mentioned he was a travel partner and shared your love of adventure as well. Um, I would love to know, where was Mike's favorite place that he ever traveled, and for any places that you've been to um, that he didn't get to go to, um, what do you think he would be the most proud of?
Absolutely, Italy was our joint favorite place. In fact, we actually were planning to move there, and that got yeah, we were in the process of making appointments to get a long-term stay visa at the end of 2016. And in that process, that was when he was diagnosed with lung cancer. And so that didn't happen. Um, no regrets. And I don't, that's one thing I have no regrets because boy, we lived a great life. But um, I think the only place that I have gone to that he would have wanted to go to that, we had discussed off and on and just never did that was, Antarctica. Yeah. And so I've been, and, I think he was, right here the whole time. Yeah. And I absolutely believe so. I don't know what anybody else's feelings are on this, but I absolutely believe that he has been with me the entire time with this business, helping me to be everything that our sisters need. Not about what I need, but about what they need, And so I love that. I don't feel like I'm doing it like without him.
That is so profound. And I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking he probably has a lot to do with, the business that you created and your purpose and like leaving that legacy behind, almost like keep going, it's just so profound. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Thanks for asking. I love talking about Mike, so I'm always happy. Yeah.
Stacey has a great podcast called Life Reimagined. How does this podcast embrace a new chapter for women on their own terms, and how does it help them when they're going through a hard time?
My goal for the podcast was and always will be that I wanted to share stories of real women who are um who have faced all kinds of challenges, obstacles, loss, whatever the case may be. And through resilience and strength and sheer determination and grit, have been able to reimagine a life for themselves that is satisfying and purposeful and meaningful. And so, when I started, I reached out to some people I knew and, they agreed to do the podcast. But over the last year, it's evolved. And I think we've gotten better at better. Like you, I absolutely want conversations. I'm not a journalist. I'm not looking to, do that. But I tend not to use any notes or anything only because I feel like the conversation will flow naturally. Like this one is like I could talk to you all day, but um the the beautiful part of it is that we're getting a lot of feedback that people feel heard, they feel seen, they feel like, oh my gosh, that woman knows exactly what I'm talking about. She's been through it too. And so um I feel like that's the biggest plus to this is that these women's stories are relatable to other women. And so it has been such a privilege and a joy for me to do it because, um, we didn't have podcasts when I was growing up. I'm a true crime podcast addict. Oh, wow. See, whole nother episode for us. But I, here's something I struggle with, and maybe you'll find that you do too, is that as a business owner, I have to be very cautious because I don't want to alienate anybody. And while I certainly respect that in this polarized country that we're living in, everyone has their own beliefs and views and opinions and what have you. Where's the boundary for me to advocate for women's rights? Because that is my mission and purpose in life without it being seen as me being political.
And like creating that division.
Correct. Correct. That is a really tricky thing.
I think all women go through such similar facets in life. And no matter where you are on that spectrum of politics, like we have empathy and compassion for each other. So I love that you use your platform to still touch on that because I think it's really needed. So,
I think so too. And I think a
yeah.
lot of times, especially as we get older, society wants us to sit down, shut up, be quiet, shrink, disappear, all those things. I want to know that not only my company, but the podcast are inspiring other women to say, wait a minute. Oh, no, wait a minute. I can say this. I've earned this right to say what I think and fight for what I believe is right. And it's all about, I think it's part of self-care in my mind.
Stacey, I've really enjoyed chatting with you today. I've learned so much. And you've really inspired me to also continue to live a life of adventure and purpose. You mentioned that when you were younger, you had a totally different idea of who you wanted to be. And I think that is always ironic in life that it gives you not what you want, but what you need. And I'm curious if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
If not now, when? That would be my advice. Don't let fear stop you. Don't let, and fear takes on so many insidious forms, but who cares what you look like in a bathing suit? Get on that surfboard. Who cares if you don't like the food? Go for the company. All those kinds of things that we just stop ourselves from doing. And so I really think, as you said earlier at the beginning of this podcast, life is so short. You think you're invincible when you're a kid, you know, and when you're young, and nothing's going to happen, and you have your whole life. I don't know if you watched the show Hacks. It's starring Gene Smart. It's, I believe, on Max, and it's a story of a 70-year-old comedian who's trying to restart her career. Um, great show, and I will tell you, I don't know if I was in love with it in season 1 as much as I am now in season 4, but it it's all about what it's like to be an older woman, and especially in a traditionally male-dominated field. But here's what I want to tell you. She's having a conversation with her writer, who is much younger than she is. And the younger one says, someday I'll do this, someday I'll do that. And Jean Smart says, so profoundly, she says, someday, someday. Someday is today for me. If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. that has been playing in my mind over and over and over, that don't wait for someday. Someday may never come.
We do think, oh, I don't have any health issues, I'm young, I've got time, So, yeah, that's just so true, and a great piece of advice, not only for your younger self, but for our listeners. I want to thank you, Stacey, for chatting with me today. For our listeners, if you're interested in diving into the world of travel, check out Sisterhood Travels. And we will link the website in our caption bios, all of the above. And also, if you'd love to tune in to Stacey's podcast, Life Reimagined with Stacey Ray, you can find her on Instagram and all her streaming platforms. But yeah, thank you so much, Stacey.
Thank you. So, what a pleasure to talk to you, and I feel very grateful for this opportunity.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Are you ready? It's time to upgrade to our Soul Glow era.